It is March 8th. And on behalf of the San Marino Foundation, we would like to wish you a happy International Women's Day. Today, we're joining Miss DSP Jacqueline Dillon. I have a few questions to ask her for a woman who is in law enforcement. The first question I would like to ask is, what inspired her to join the police force, and what is it like to be a woman in law enforcement?
Ione Ramsey, retired superintendent of police. While I was in high school at Wolvers, I saw a picture of her riding a motorbike. As a matter of fact, at the time, I think she was the only female rider in the JCF. And so it sort of became a nuance in my head that I wanted to become a police officer and that I wanted to ride a bike. I've not yet ridden a bike. But serving in the JCF as a woman, very rewarding, very inspiring. The job I do, I enjoy a whole lot because it gives me an opportunity to interact with people. Once you interact with people and you're satisfied about what you do as law enforcement, then it becomes fulfilling no matter what the pay is. Because at the time when I joined, I have now 30 years in the JCF. Pay wasn't so great, but it was fulfilling, it was rewarding because you were serving and you're giving service to people.
The next thing I would like to know is, what are some of the challenges faced by women in this leadership role?
I don't even know what the biggest challenges are. You know that you're in a male-dominated organization. You're required to work just as hard. There were no exemptions. And so, you know, for some persons, they may believe that once you become a police officer, that you'll be in the office all the time. That's not the case. I have been on the road. Some of the communities that you call inner city communities, I patrolled, in charge of operation support team at the area level. And so I've done hardcore policing, done some amount of office, although it's not real office because you still have to interact with people on the road. So challenges for me, I'm not even sure if there are any challenges like that, you know. It's just that you have to work. You have to really, really work to make it in the JCF. Sometimes you work hard and the success that you expect to have is not there, but you are motivated by the persons that you serve.
Now, to be in this leadership role, there must have been a defining moment in which you were noted as a leader. What was that defining moment for you?
A defining moment in my career that shapes me as a leader. I think for me, that would be when I took on the challenge when I was in a division to start a youth empowerment program. Retired Deputy Commissioner Navlet Grant was the one who pioneered the program. And so she, for me, was my mentor and still is. Learned a lot from her, and I had to deal with young people, youths. To this day, I still deal with youth. And you had to come up with strategies that will shape their lives and how you deal with them. And so even in the lives of my children, I use some of those things that I learned to help to kind of guide them and shape them. And so those experiences that I had over a 5-year period with young people in a youth empowerment program, I think that was what helped to chart my way in the organization as a leader, because then you have to understand people, You have to understand the different personalities that you come upon, and you have to ensure that your own personality is not in conflict with the persons that you have to deal with.
Now, DSP Delon, how has the role of women evolved over the years in law enforcement?
For me, based on my experience and what I've seen, we now have women in senior leadership in the JCF. We have never had the number of women in various leadership positions in the JCF as we have now. We have had a number of assistant commissioners. I remember back in the days when you had an assistant commissioner who was a female is one. You have the highest ranking woman in the JCF is a deputy commissioner. You have had, we now have a number of women who are leaders of divisions. We have a number of women who are leaders in sections. And so the women in the JCF are doing very well, you know. And back in the days when I just joined, you never had that. As a matter of fact, when you aspire to be up in the commissioning rank as a junior constable in the JCF as a female at the time, it was almost like a pipe dream. And so now it is possible if you work hard, and you can get there. For me, I am may not necessarily get to the commissioning rank, but I believe that for the women who are behind, they can, if they do all that they need to do.
I want to know some of the unique strengths women bring to the police force.
I think one of the unique strengths is that women are able, we are naturally a nurturer. And because women are naturally nurturers, it brings that kind of soft skill to the organization, because the organization is a rough one. And when you are able to have that human face and that human side to law enforcement, it makes a difference.
Now, DSP Jacqueline Lynn's not just a police officer, but she's also JCF's National Jamaica Domestic Violence Intervention Liaison Officer. DSP Delon, how has domestic violence been in Jamaica, and what are the trends you've observed in recent years?
So domestic violence is very prevalent. The statistics tell that 1 in 4 women exposed to domestic violence at varying levels. And so what we found, I don't think there is more persons are not talking about domestic violence. Days gone by, it was my private business, I keep it at home, nobody needs to know. More and more women are coming out, and so more and more men are also coming out. And so for the JCF, we had to develop a strategy to deal with domestic violence before they become serious crimes, because they lead to murders and other serious offenses. So the JCF had to develop a strategy, and that's what we did. And we have been reaping success with that strategy that we have developed. Because when you talk about domestic violence, it does not just stay in person's home. It goes into the community and the wider society. It impacts children. It impacts families and communities. And so we were proactive to ensure that whatever strategy we put in place must work. And one of the things that we have been able to do is outreach in communities. We have gone into communities at doorsteps to talk about domestic violence, to tell people where you can go for help. And I also want you to remember that when we talk about domestic violence intervention, it's not a JCF alone, it's JCF and partners. Because we are law enforcement, we are proactive. Our partners help us to find shelters and assist us in going to the court, to get lawyers, all the things that a woman would need to help herself to get back on her feet.
No, I'm really happy to hear that the statistics is slowly reducing when it comes on to domestic violence in Jamaica. But I want to know, Ms. Delon, what are some of the challenges women face when reporting domestic violence, and also what the police officers face?
Again, it's stigma. There are persons in the upper echelon who do not necessarily want to go to the police to make a report of domestic violence because of status quo. I say to them, there is no excuse for abuse. You have an opportunity to get help, and that you need to get help. Right? There's no shame in saying, look here, I need help because I'm a victim of domestic violence. Too many persons are losing their lives to domestic violence. And if it is that we can prevent it by talking about it and getting help, that is what you ought to do. And so stigma is one of the biggest challenge. Another thing is economic, where persons are not able to finance themselves. And so because they're dependent or reliant on the abuser, it becomes difficult for them to go and report. Some persons do not want to, it would come back on the status quo where I am from a low-income family and I've now gone into the upper status of life and I don't want to go back down there. Some of them is that they have no support. And so if I have no support, why would I go and make a report? Because when I make that report, there was nobody to support me to recover from the incidents of abuse.
Now, DSP, you're not just a woman, but you're a mother and you're an officer, as well as you have many other things outside of the police force. Tell me, what are your hobbies and what is your life outside of the Jamaica Constabulary Force?
So, I read a lot. I love to read. I love sightseeing. So, I'll just get up on a weekend if I'm not working and I'm gone. I love to travel. And I love to spend time with my family because that's on a weekend is the only time I get to really spend time with my family. And so that is what I do. There are times when I have to do community engagement. So very active in my community. I go out there, I go to meetings, community meetings. I go to my son's school and we meet and we talk about issues around students and youth and all of those. So, and sometimes if I do have care packages, I will deliver care packages to the elderly persons, not just in my community, but other communities. So that's what I do. I love gardening at home. I have a lot of plants right now. I have so many plants, I don't even know where I'm going to keep all of them. So I have to be creating new spaces for them. Farming, yeah, I have a farm, but I'm not the person who go there. I only go on there and reap. But I enjoy going and sit down and, sometimes a day of relaxation for me. Once I have the time, that's where I am. So I love nature. I love water. I don't swim. Unfortunately, I don't swim. But I love to hear water. I love to be near it because it's a calming, and it allows me to clear my head so that I can take on the challenges of the job. Outside of policing, I enjoy my life outside of policing. I say to women in Jamaica, external of Jamaica, be proud of who you are. Always aim high. Always believe in yourself. And always remember to be the best you. Happy International Women's Day.